Hey folks, this is Sam Heber here from Heber Family Adventures on Instagram, Samuel Heber on YouTube, Samuel Heber on Facebook, www.samuelheber.net. Here with another episode of Heroes of Autism. I'm here with Pamela, who on Instagram is creating awareness for girls on the spectrum. Pam, can you tell us a bit about your story? How did you start this Instagram, and what was the motivation behind it?
So really the motivation was my daughter had been having struggles probably since the second grade, and I kind of couldn't get anyone on board to recognize um, that she wasn't defiant. It wasn't that she wasn't trying in school. It wasn't that she's not smart. Just there were more struggles to it than that. And I think when they finally tested her for autism at age 10, um, I realized that a lot of the diagnostic criteria, all the questionnaires I would read would say, they would reference boys. And not to take away from boys, but at the same time, a lot of characteristics that girls possess are not the same as boys. Like, my daughter doesn't stim. She doesn't stim at all.
Right.
She's very fidgety, but I wouldn't call it stimming. And then she does have social communication issues, but like they don't manifest as behaviors. It comes off as like shyness, or maybe her not wanting to socialize.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a want to. I think it's really an anxiety around new people.
Mm-hmm.
So things of that nature. And I feel like because a lot of girls internalize their struggles, and they're more likely to like mimic other girls, because they're like, oh, this is what girls are supposed to do, so this is what I'm going to do. And then they don't realize that they're really struggling to fit in by masking.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the diagnostic criteria don't ask those questions. Like, they don't ask the correct questions um, for girls in particular. Not all boys, I'm sure, but a lot of boys have stimming. They have physical behaviors to a degree
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes make it more obvious that maybe, they're on the spectrum or something of that nature. And I feel like with girls, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like maybe observation needs to be more of a criteria, more so than like the actual questions for girls. And so I came up with the Instagram because honestly, I talk with several other moms, because it actually started as a Facebook page, um, just to kind of connect with other parents that had children on the spectrum, because I was trying to educate myself, and finding out that a lot of the research materials, even online, were specifically for boys.
Mm-hmm.
And it made it really hard to try to kind of figure out where we fit in,
Mm-hmm.
being a girl. And so I just started a page, and every time I'd find something that was directly related to, females on the autism spectrum that I thought would be helpful, I would post it to my Facebook page. And then so the Instagram page came about. Same thing, if I come across things, I would, post it to my Instagram. Or I've met several moms through Instagram that have daughters that would direct message me and ask questions. We'd share our stories, because I mean, if you can't connect with other parents on the spectrum, it's hard to really know what's working and what's not working. And maybe you have some insight that, it's not offered online. It's not offered in a book. It only comes from experiences.
Yeah, I really agree with you on that point. I've come up with a saying while I've been doing this show that autism is not a disability; it's a community. That
Right.
when we come together, like just it makes the raising of our kids, or for adults on the spectrum too, that they have this community of people that will back them up and give them the support that they need and accept them as they are. Um, and a community that's fighting so hard to end the stigma against autistic people and make it also easier for autistic women, I think, to be found and get the help that they need. Um, so how have you been able to really advocate for your daughter in this capacity that getting her what she needs? So she's now diagnosed. So what kind of services has she been able to get since her diagnosis?
Like what kind of supports you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so when she first got diagnosed, they only offered her a 504 plan for the first 2 years. So the first year I was like, well, we'll try it and kind of see how it works out. She did occupational and physical therapy outside of school to work on some balance and coordination issues, as well as some desensitizing, because as I stated, that she had a lot of sensory issues with clothing textures.
Hmm.
In her school, they wear uniforms. Like they can only wear khaki style like pants and thing. So certain things that she had to wear, like the t-shirts and the pants, were really intrusive to her. She would say she'd either call them scratchy, or she'd say they make her skin feel like it's tingling. So we did the therapy for a while. And then I just kind of figured out what kind of clothing items I needed to get to cater to her sensitivities. Because I honestly don't think the therapy was all that effective. I think you just kind of have to modify their comfort level and find things that they're comfortable with. And then, so sixth grade, when they offered the 504 again, I was like, well, I really feel like that's not adequate. So we got the independent education evaluation, and it came to light. I had kept telling them I was concerned about Emily's ability to do math. Not that she's not smart or that she can't do it, but it takes her a lot longer to process math concepts than maybe, the average person. And she needs a lot of repetition to learn the same concepts.
Hmm.
And so it came to light after the evaluation that she actually has a learning disability in math. And so then she finally got developed an IEP, which she just had her first IEP for 7th grade this past year.
Hmm.
Um, and I can't honestly say she's still supported as well as she should be. And I don't know if it's lack of resources at the school district, or if it's because she's a girl and they view her as maybe less disabled than another student. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's a perception thing. They don't see her as being disabled, so they're like, she doesn't really need it. But autism is not always a visual disability.
Hmm.
I mean, you may not know that someone's on the spectrum. They could be super talented, they could be really, really smart. That doesn't mean they don't struggle.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what I have experienced as a teacher's assistant, and just talking to a lot of women on the spectrum. That just a lot of what they seem to experience is very internal, like introverted behavior, and which is really hard to spot. And um, so have you gone about explaining to your daughter about like what autism is and how it pertains to her? Like for the moms out there, like how do I explain this to my daughter? Like, honey, this is how your mind works.
I kind of presented it to her like, how maybe, you like a certain something that's interesting to you. Um, but when it's interesting to you, you always want to have like all the items that correlate to that thing. Like, say she's really into Japanese anime. So I'll use that as an example. So she loves anime. So she's like, I want the anime costumes. I want the anime clothes. I want everything anime. And maybe a peer that happens to have the same interest would be like, yeah, that's cool. But their interest level isn't to the same degree as hers. And I'm like, it's because your brain works differently. When you get something that's really interesting to you, you need to know everything about it. You love everything about it. Like, I'm like, it's not the same as just being like, okay, I like it.
Mm.
And then she will, like, I just tell her, she'll say, well, how's come I don't like this or I don't like that, or, I don't like certain clothes. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm like, your brain just works differently than other people's. I'm like, it doesn't make you less smart. It doesn't make you, be able to learn less things, or, be able to do certain things. I'm like, it's just how you process your information is maybe not how mom processes the same information. I'm
Mm,
like, and sometimes we have to explain things to you in a different way that, that you will understand versus how someone would explain it to me, and that's okay. I tell her all the time, I'm like, that's okay. It's okay if you need an extra explanation. It's okay if you need it explained to you differently. It's okay if you need them to show you instead of explain it to you. I'm like, that, I was like, that doesn't mean that you're any different than the next person. It's just that your brain doesn't process the information, how maybe someone else that's not autistic would process the information.
mm,
So, I mean, I feel like I'm always, like, whenever I made her a visual schedule, and I told her, I was like, that I tell her, I'm like, and which honestly, I had other moms kind of copy what I did. I took a whiteboard and I would write on there, okay, wake up. It was like a little magnetic. Um, I used cardstock and then I put them on magnets and used the whiteboard. One would say, wake up. The other one would say, you know, get dressed, brush your teeth, go have breakfast, and as a means of making her more dependent and independent. And so, a lot of people that are on the spectrum, like, you can't just say, hey, you need to go get dressed, brush your teeth, brush your hair. You can't just say that, right? Because it's too many things at once. So by giving them a way to visualize what they're supposed to do and kind of like taking those coupons off the board or whatever, like, okay, I did that and I did that, it's like making them feel like they don't need all this help to do those same things. They just need to see it to do it rather than being told to do it.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's kind of those are the things I came up with to help my daughter. And I feel like some of those things are universal.
yeah. I think it's very universal, especially in the autism community, like that we need structure, schedules, consistency above all else, because it gives us, the autistic person, a sense of control over our environment and our activities. Um, so is there what goes into raising awareness for autistic girls? Do you do charities or like events or?
Actually, I did in my community before COVID started. Actually had a huge hand in starting it was a sensory night for the local skating rink.
Mm,
And so I worked with the skating rink owner, and she said that I emailed her, and she was like, said that she had already was like thinking about doing a sensory something. But I gave her my input, and she used all of my input in creating the event and the flyer that would take place once a month. And what that looks like is usually when you go to a skating rink, the music's really loud. The video games, have a lot of sounds and lights, and like the rock wall has that siren, which can be really intrusive to people, with disabilities, not just on the spectrum, but sensory issues.
mm,
Um, and so what had happened was it was every Wednesday, and it's called Ultimate Wristbands. They're usually like $13. And then you have to rent a skate mate that's like, $2 and stuff like that. And so what I tried to do also was to get low fees, because a lot of families, they maybe aren't in the best place income wise. And so I was trying to help create something that not only was sensory friendly, but economically friendly. Um, and so what we created was, it was $9. The kiddos got tokens. They got to use the free skate mate, which I don't know if you know what that is. It looks like a little triangle way to assist them in being able to go out in the skating rink and give it a shot, with still being able to stabilize themselves. They could do laser tag. They could do, it's like a play area. It had slides and like different things in there. And they got the inclusion of the skate mate and the skates themselves, and it was $9 only. They didn't have to pay all the extra money for all the extra things that they could do there. The parents could walk on the skating rink floor with their kids because a lot of them need that extra support. In a normal skating rink environment, that you cannot walk on the skating rink floor with your children. And also, they would turn down the music. The music was turned way, way down. And they turned the siren off on the rock wall. The games didn't have the noise on them. Like, they still had some of the lighting so you could play, but they didn't have the noise. So that's one of the things that I did. I also did a fundraiser. It was called Art for Autism. I raised funds and also got supplies donated, art supplies. And then our local behavioral health that I'm affiliated with, I donated the art supplies to them, and they were given to kiddos on the spectrum. Because art is I think, a really big outlet for a lot of autistic people. It's a way to be creative, whether it was hand painting, or a lot of it was the watercolors, so they could do hand painting. There was some whiteboards, because I know my daughter used to like to just draw on a whiteboard. There was sketch pads, markers, coloring books for the younger kiddos in there, Play-Doh. And so that was all donated. I was planning to do it again this year, but I'm just not sure with the current situation if I'm going to be able to do it. But the plan was to do it on an annual basis.
Well, it sounds like you do a lot of great things for your community, and it takes a tribe to give our kiddos the support that they need, and it sounds like you're doing a great job there. I always like to end my interviews with the following question: if you could change the way the world sees autism in one way, what would it be and why?
I would say, and I know this is cliche, but it's like, see the person, not the disability. Because every single autistic person is totally different from the next. And at the end of the day, they are a person, and they have a lot of unique qualities to offer. So I would say, just see the person, not the label.
Yeah, that's the heart of the movement that this channel is about, is seeing our humanity. It definitely sounds like you're helping do that for your daughter and other kiddos in your community. If anyone wants to get involved or talk to you more about your cause for awareness for autistic girls, how can they do that?
For people to get involved?
Yes.
I would say that anytime you have the opportunity to have a conversation with someone about autism in general, I would just convey to them, that, take away the stigmatism that autism only affects boys, and just make it equal awareness for both boys and girls.
All right, excellent. Pamela, thank you so much for coming on the show and offering your nuggets of wisdom. Keep up the great work you're doing with your daughter. Wish you guys the best of luck, and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks. It was nice meeting you.
It was nice meeting you.
Okay. Bye. Thanks.